Hello. It is I've forgotten the date. It is the 18th of April. Yes, it is the 18th of April, and it is day 29 of lockdown.
Hey.
As you can see, we are still in the office.
Day 29, we've done nearly a month of lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
We've done a February of lockdown.
We have done a February's worth of We've done a leap year February's worth of lockdown.
Oh,
yeah, we have leap year February.
Stand by it.
Yep. No, that's
Tell your
true.
friends.
So obviously everybody started their own personal lockdowns at slightly different times. We started on the 20th of March. 23rd of March was actually when the government sort of implemented forcible lockdown, but I think quite a lot of people had essentially gone into some semblance of lockdown before then. But the 23rd was when it sort of officially kicked off in this country, but we started on the 20th. So that's where we are.
Yeah.
So yes, apologies, lack of face today. It's been one of those. I haven't showered either. I'm really quite gross today.
I, by contrast, have made a real effort.
Well, your face is a different colour than it was yesterday, isn't it?
Yeah, well, because I've got these... Ellie's got these hair chalks that I've never seen her use, but she's got loads of them in all different colours. And yesterday, I've got this tiny little bit of hair growth on my chin that you can't really see if I don't dye it. But I thought I could dye it to different hair chalk colours, and that'd be a bit of fun. But yesterday I went for a sort of bright pink, and it just looked like I had like a carpet burn or a scabby lip or something. So today I've gone with a sort of blue to match the shirt I'm wearing. But also yesterday I was wearing an ill-fitting thermal vest, and I really just felt like that's not presentable for people, is it? That's just like a couch
the
potato.
normal rules have kind of gone out the window, haven't they?
I
wouldn't let people into my house with me looking like this.
An ill-fitting thermal vest is like one step above a string vest. A string
you don't
vest.
own one of those, do you?
I don't own a string vest. So you'll not see that on the blog. Relax. But today I thought, well, I've got to kind of up my game a bit. That's why I'm wearing a shirt that's got an actual collar on it. I mean, I say I've made an effort. It's not much of an effort, is it? I just put on a slightly less shit shirt. Everyone has to put on a shirt. Yeah, it was easy, but nonetheless,
you've taken a little bit of personal grooming there.
Yeah, a bit of pride in my appearance today.
I'm now wondering, if I hide the chalks, does that mean you'll go back to the original plan of shaving that off?
No. I'll just spend a lot of time looking for chalks. Well, not a lot of time, because we don't have any time anymore, do we? We're stuck unless you hide them in this room, which would be foolish of you.
Yeah.
I don't know when you'd find the time to even hide them. Though, is the other thing, because
I could hide them while you're on one of your shifts where you get to go into the real world. So our lockdown has got significantly shitter.
When I walk the dog.
Yeah, that's real world.
Okay.
I got excited when Chris came in from walking the dog today. There was a tiny little caterpillar on his shirt, a live caterpillar, just like a really little baby one. It was very cute.
Tiny little caterpillar.
Tiny little thing, very cute. And I, quite excitedly, collected it and went, this means I can go outside. And took the little thing out.
How far outside did you go?
Oh, I went into the garden.
Oh.
I went up about 3 steps up the steps so that I could put it on a nice big fresh sprig of mint. So I hope caterpillars eat mint. Because we got loads of it. But yeah, I realised that was the only time I'd been downstairs today. Yesterday I only went downstairs to go to the computer to upload this blog. Our lockdown is this room, and this room is shit.
I mean,
our lockdown has got distinctly shitter in the last week, hasn't it?
Most days I go downstairs to...
you cook, which is much appreciated.
And then I cook dinner, but today... I didn't even cook dinner because we got a takeaway in. So,
which was very indulgent and probably naughty, but I think we both needed a bit of a pick-me-up today, and it was lush. It was a quite nice thing to sort of see happen because it's one of our favourite pubs, Le Pub in Newport. They're an all-vegan food restaurant. One of those fancy food restaurants. They're an all-vegan restaurant, and they're amazing, and I love them. And the fact that you also really like their food is a real testament to it being an omni, not a vegan. But yeah, really nice, like sort of stodgy comfort food, sort of big old burgers and hot dogs and chicken all sorts of nice. Yeah, the chicken nuggets, which are obviously not chicken, they're jackfruit, but they're lovely.
They do garlic fries.
And I have to say, since lockdown, I've been sort of adjusting to sort of not being able to do most things quite well, like it'd be nice to sort of go out and meet people out, but I think like switching to sort of FaceTiming and all of that sort of stuff. But I have been missing Le Pub's food. So when they said that they were doing deliveries, which are twice a week on Tuesdays and Saturdays, I was ecstatic. So we invested in one today, and also if you order food, they send some booze. So it was nice to have sort of booze that we couldn't have from sort of the shop or that we didn't already have in. So having a rhubarb cider.
I've got a nice Perry.
Nice bee stick with bee sting.
Yeah, bee sting.
So yeah, so that was our little pick me up this evening, which I think it is safe to say we needed. Both of us have been a bit miserable today. I think I'm fibromyalgia wise, I am now starting to really feel the burn of sleeping on the floor. Like, it's just uncomfortable. It would be uncomfortable for anyone anyway, but it just means that I'm getting stiffer and more sore. And this is not, by the way, that Chris hasn't been very gallant and offered. It's really, I'm tossing up between like the pain of fibromyalgia and the mental torture of anxiety. If I go and sleep in the other room and leave Chris in here and Poppet gets up to try to use the litter tray, I don't think he'll wake up. And I think that's fair, isn't it?
Yeah,
like, you are a
deep
sleeper
than you.
And if she pees on her bandage, that's going to cost us 130 quid. But, so I think I'm sort of just, I've made a rod for my own back. This is not I don't want anybody to sort of accuse you of just being like, leave me to sleep on the floor. But it is starting to take its toll.
But also I have been taking my own shifts in the daytime when I've been, so we've both been taking our turns in this room. It's this kind of weird situation where the cat needs 24-hour care, but most of the time the cat isn't actually hard work.
No, she's just sleeping.
She just is sleeping or
chilling.
kind of chilling out. But we just need to be here all the time, because if if she tries to use the litter tray and we're not there to hoik her leg out of the way, then
130 quid.
Yeah, and that's not really. But it does mean that I spent a big chunk of the day in here. Like hours of time in this room, like feeling headachy.
Oh, bless.
But not wanting to take a drink because I didn't want to have to leave the room to go to the toilet in case the minute my back was turned, Poppet then weasel down her leg, you know, and it's...
yeah, so I was at that point, so obviously if it was normal part of the day, one of us, if we're not in here, we'll just message the other one and be like, oh, can you just grab me a drink, or can you come in so that I can use the loo or whatever. But I was getting my few hours of well, theoretically I was trying to get my few hours of sleep. The other pets had other ideas.
Yeah, so I was trying not to disturb Ellie.
Yeah.
And then it's a whole thing.
And just realising how grumpy this vlog is.
So grumpy, but like the thing is and it's not like this room is bereft of entertainment. It's difficult because it's impossible to actually really get comfortable here because we haven't got any. We've taken all the furniture out so that Poppet isn't tempted to try and leap up on something with her bad leg. So we've got nowhere to actually sit or anything. So we're just kind of trying to get comfortable on the floor, which is just
you can just about do if you can lie down.
Lying down is okay, but it's
then if you want to sort of watch
really
something,
to sit without getting
you can't really sit together.
Pins and needles or a numb bum or some. You're just getting generally uncomfortable. And then also this isn't a room bereft of entertainment. Like I can bring my smartphone in, so that's immediately got access to Netflix. I've got the Switch. I've also got books and comic books and things. There are things to do. But first of all, it's hard to concentrate on that stuff if you're really headachy through dehydration. That isn't fun. And secondly, I've been thinking about this a little bit. There's a sort of boredom that happens. You know, when you're a kid. And you go, oh, I'm bored. And then your parents are there, and they
list off a million things you could do.
And they're a bit annoyed, because they remember when they were kids, and the toys weren't as flashy, and there weren't as many things you could do. They didn't have the fancy video games.
Also, they're probably really busy and have loads to do, and would love to just
But when they were kids, they didn't have as much stuff to do. So they're looking at all the stuff that you've got now that they didn't have when they were kids. And they're like, well, how can you possibly be bored? You've got all these things to do. No, don't tell me you're bored. You've got this and this. I never had that when I was your age. But the kid is, well, I don't care about anything. I'm just bored. I can't help how I feel. I'm bored, right? I crave novelty. I've played with all these toys before. And I feel like a lot of the time right now, I am both sides of that in one person.
What, being frustrated with yourself
I'm
or being
going,
bored?
Yeah, I'm going, oh, I'm really bored. And then I go, what? How can you be bored? Like, there's so much stuff you can do. There's never been, I keep saying this, there's never been a better time in human history to be stuck in your house or indeed in one room. And I can reason that to myself, but then at the same, and I'm slightly annoyed at myself for being bored, but at the same time, I'm just going, yeah, but I do feel it though.
Yeah.
That is how I feel.
I feel bored,
And
yeah.
I don't want to do any of the things that there are to do here. I just want to go outside and walk the dog, or I want to get some fresh air, or I want to... I mean, even to the point that today, a friend rang me up, and I tried to take that call and have a conversation, and you can't even sensibly have a conversation on your own in the room on the phone, because the dog, who can't come in and disturb the poorly cat, will then realise something is going on in the room and start whining outside and disturb
Which woke
Ellie.
me up, which meant that was why we did a shift swap
So
then.
it's like, I can't even sit in this room and have a conversation with a friend. You know, that's the level of... and like...
So any of you fuckers who are complaining that you've got to stay in, at least you can sit on a fucking sofa.
This is it. To be able to sit on a sofa
I want to sit on a sofa.
movie and...
I want to play a board game.
We talked about yesterday, we watched...
Oh my god.
We watched Phantom of the Opera, which I'd never seen before, and they were screening that for free on YouTube for people to watch, like the 25th anniversary performance. Ellie's a big fan. I'd never seen it, and I can't say that I particularly enjoyed it, but I'll be honest, I don't think I gave it much of a chance, or at least I meant to, but I couldn't give it a fair chance because I was watching it on an iPad, perched at an angle, and I couldn't...
A bit uncomfortable.
I couldn't find a position in which I was comfortable. So, you know, if we'd been sat on the sofa with some popcorn and it was on the telly...
Yeah, turn the lights off, have the big telly...
TV, and just get into it. I think I might have enjoyed it a lot more, but I didn't... So, and like, look, if you're having a... If your lockdown is slightly less restrictive than this, and you're still getting a bit bored and fed up, I'm not saying this, I'm not trying to say you should feel bad because we've got it slightly worse. There are certainly people who've got it a lot worse than us, you know, but it's...
Well, put it this way, I'm glad that for this situation being the situation that we've at least got each other, because I actually think even without a poorly cat and actually having the whole house to sort of do all that stuff with, well, I still wouldn't be able to play board games and stuff. And I think like being on my own, like I've always been pretty good in my own company, but not indefinitely. Like I think after a while, so I am really glad that I've got company, and I'm glad. Oh my god, I'm glad I've got somebody to do shifts with on this. Just because I'd be insane.
But like
I would be a danger to myself by now.
So we're not saying like...
I think everybody's frustrated.
And everyone's got their own problems and all of this. And certainly it's perfectly reasonable, even if you aren't restricted to one room, even if you can sit on your sofa and watch the thing, it's perfectly acceptable to miss the pub or miss seeing your friends and even have a bit of a whinge about all that like we're doing. But
yeah, we're doing. Heartily.
But what I would say is, like, if you're one of these people, and I'm sure none of you are, if you're watching this, you're all good, reasonable
You must be
people,
bored. You must be doing all the right things.
But if you're one of the... If you've resorted to this... But if you're one of those people that is talking about breaking curfew or even I've heard people talking about protesting lockdown.
Oh, piss off.
And really just like, fuck off. It's not so bad. You know, it's if you have the run of your house and that freedom to do what you like when you want, oh, I envy you. And like I say, you're welcome to be a bit bored and you're welcome to be like, look, I know there's stuff to do, but I'm still feeling a bit fed up and like to see things. That's absolutely a valid way to feel.
But yeah, if you're flouting the rules
consider
and all that,
going out
suck
and seeing
it up,
friends,
buttercup.
visiting, because it's not worth it.
Yeah, it's
People
bullshit.
are dying and...
Well, to take it to further great it's sort of all along those lines, because there are people talking about flouting lockdown now. I think people are getting frustrated, which we get. I can't say I'm looking forward to another... best part of 8 weeks of this room. I'm hoping at some point we can trust her to use the litter tray, at which point we could maybe be a bit more sensible and actually get our house back. But
we just need to make sure that she's peeing and hoiking her own leg out of the way, and that when that is happening...
We can't afford 130 quid a piss.
It's
who just can't.
No, you can't.
That's a very expensive habit.
We haven't budgeted for that.
Who does budget for that?
Who thinks, well,
I might
let's
have
have
to
130
quid
aside in multiple numbers of that in case any of the cats need the toilet at any point ever. I mean,
if you do budget for that, then you've got a very comfortable household budget and earn too much money.
Too much fucking money, mate.
But yeah, so on that front, I get it. Everybody is getting frustrated, and there's one of those things that people often say, and I've caught myself saying it, is when you're feeling a bit grim and miserable, the temptation is to just then sort of go, oh, I'm being a dick. Other people have got it a lot worse than me, and of course people do, but everything is subjective, and just because other people might be going through bigger problems, pain is subjective, and boredom is subjective, frustration is subjective. It doesn't mean that your feelings aren't valid, and it's fine and fair, and I think good to vent those frustrations. It does. Just because somebody else is having a worse time of it than you, that doesn't mean that you should just shut up about something that's bothering you. It's fine and fair to sort of let that out. So I just kind of wanted to say that. But yeah, on the thing that I was going to sort of discuss about a few things I've read over the last few days about sort of people discussing what life after lockdown is going to be like, which nobody really knows. Nobody globally really knows, because this virus is so new that even sort of the countries that had it before us and are relaxing lockdown measures, nobody has gone back to normal. And I think it's interesting to discuss what going back to normal might mean. And one of the things that has been talked about, and a few times I've heard people mention, is that one potential possibility is that if we get to the stage where we can test for antibodies and you can prove that you're already immune, then those people who are immune because they've had it would be able to sort of go back to work, and we could also maybe sort of public gatherings you'd be able to go if you had like an immunity passport, and that's an interesting concept, and it would mean that you'd still drip feed that sort of everybody eventually is going to basically get it, but the NHS wouldn't be overwhelmed, but it would mean that some people could go back to normality. So I thought that was quite an interesting concept, and I was reading a few things about it. I laughed out loud, and I shouldn't have laughed out loud because actually it was quite depressing, but I looked at a story on BBC News about it, and it sort of said, because I was talking about immunity passports and antibody tests, and the first line of this article about it was, the first problem with antibody tests is we don't have any that work. Well, yeah, that is quite a big problem with that.
But other than that, it's a real winner. It's a plan.
And then the second problem with it is we don't know enough about this virus to really say that if you have it once, you're then indefinitely immune. I've used this example before, but for example, you can catch the flu more than once because there's different strains. The flu is also a virus. This is a virus. Viruses mutate in a slightly different way and with slightly different sort of physiology to bacterial infections and other diseases. So, for example, yes, you can get a vaccination against polio and you'll never get polio, but you can't get a vaccination against flu and never get flu. You won't get that season's flu because you'll be immune to that season's flu, but flu keeps coming, which this may do that. At which point, what sort of future are we looking at? Because we can't have a future where everybody is permanently locked down, because there's just too many people and there won't be enough people to sort of do the work that we need to do to maintain that number of people, just sort of farming and all of those sorts of things. So then, sort of longer term, do we just have to have like sort of super hospitals and massive investment in healthcare so that we can cover there being huge amounts of people pretty much perpetually in intensive care with this particular illness? How does that look? What happens there? Is that the kind of future that we're looking at? And nobody knows, and there's lots of... I think everybody seems to keep talking about getting back to normal. And I have a quite strong inkling that there's going to be elements of this where we just don't go back to normal. There will be normality of some kind, and lots, probably the majority of things that we used to do, we will be able to do again. But I think this is a bit of a game changer, and I don't really feel like I know what kind of future we're going to be looking at a year from now. Like, even if we do get a vaccine for this, is that going to be a everybody takes it and then we're fine, and it's kind of like things that we've essentially eradicated, like smallpox we don't have anymore because the vaccine worked, but smallpox is a different kind of illness. Like, what do you think? How do you think the future's going to look
I don't know.
post
Well,
lockdown?
I mean, ages and ages ago, and by ages and ages ago, I mean like
It could have been days.
I mean,
the way I'm feeling
a couple
currently.
of weeks, but yeah, time has lost a lot of its meaning. But I think I was talking to someone on it, and I was sort of saying, well, you know, we could have another of these kind of crises down the line. And they said, well, it's the first one that's been in our lifetime, and the chances of there being another one in our lifetime is very unlikely. And I wish that I felt that sense of assurance, but really, I just think.
Are you imagining another sort of pandemic?
Well, just the idea that kind of. I
or
don't
just
know.
another
I mean,
global.
This is quite
crisis.
sort of cynical or fatalistic or something. I don't know, but I just look at everything that goes on with the weather and the environment, and now this, and it just feels like everything's trending towards some sort of.
It does, doesn't it? It does feel like it's
all
a
those
big
celebrities
old
died in 2016.
downward
There's a lot of bad things happened, and I just think, yeah, I just feel like this isn't some weird anomalous blip and then everything will be fine again. I feel like there's this, and then 10 years from now maybe something even more deadly comes along.
Is
or
this
5
all
years
just
or
a
8 years
symptom
or
to the
13
is,
years.
is this basically all just caused by the sheer number of humanity there are? Because the pandemic is essentially, it wouldn't have spread through the world if there weren't so many of us.
No.
And climate change, that's us. We've done that. So that's the weather stuff. Like, is it us? Is it our fault? Is all of it? And basically, there's no solution to that, because I'm like, we're here now. So, like, what does that mean? Actually, on that sort of leading towards apocalypse, because this year has been bonkers. Well, these last few years have been bonkers, but even just this year, Australia, which is a massive fucking country, most of that was on fire for several weeks earlier this year. Wales had massive floods. People lost their homes in the UK, which doesn't really have big weather things go on here. And then this all kicked off. It is apocalyptic. And then somebody pointed out, quite rightly, and people have been talking about this for years, but somebody just sort of went, you know that big old super volcano under Yellowstone? It's rumbling. It's rumbling at the moment. Oh, also another thing, there's forest fires encroaching on Chernobyl, which is sending radioactive smoke towards the rest of Russia and the Ukraine. So that's good.
Fun.
So maybe we'll get some superheroes.
Oh, that's a bit of fun.
Maybe they will be able to save us.
Finally, a bit of positivity.
Yeah.
On the vlog.
So yeah, it does sort of feel like.
Have we got anything good to talk about?
I don't think so.
I feel like we've talked about our own.
We had some nice food.
Spaces, and then we talked about how bad the world situation is. But I did see a story today. This isn't a good thing necessarily, but it's closer to neutral. Where
there's only so much we can do in this room, guys.
And I apologise, right, because none of the details in this story are going to be accurate. I've got one detail that's accurate. There's a governor in somewhere in Nigeria, I think, and he has been sending out care packages, right, to people, and he's included in.
I assume it's to people who are self-isolating.
Right. And with essential foods in them, and he's included in those some small bottles of cognac, the Hennessy brand cognac. That's the detail that I know. That is fact. It is Hennessy brand cognac.
Nairobi thing. You told me about the story. It was Nairobi.
And so, he has included. He's come under fire for including this cognac in the essential care package, which he has justified as being a throat sanitizer. And he also.
I like the way you think.
Oh yeah. Well, we've been doing a lot of throat sanitising, guys, and
you could eat your dinner off
it. The throat sanitizer I've been using is 7.5% cider, so that's got to be good stuff. So, but
crikey.
He also has his justification. He said that You think the information coming from the World Health Organization and other organizations is that alcohol is a major way of helping stop the coronavirus.
Yeah.
Which is a fair point, but the problem with that as a point is it runs entirely opposite to the information that has come from the World Health Organization. So actually, it's just bullshit.
Yeah,
because
I think I've just had a little bit of a flash of inspiration of where he's got that from.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, hand sanitizer has alcohol in it. High alcohol content will
Don't.
kill the virus.
I mean,
but not drinking it.
I mean, if you are going to drink alcohol, go for Hennessy over hand sanitizer.
Probably.
But if anything. And actually this is a bit of advice that we're flouting, but the World Health Organization has actually said alcohol doesn't help with coronavirus and actually minimise alcohol intake. Yeah. So, and then there's a non-profit health organisation in Nairobi that's actually advising people to dump the bottles of Hennessy that are being sent to them.
Now, that story and that response from the World Health Organization, understandably so, were you you'd pay close attention to that story, because I do drink a lot. And I looked into that a little bit more closely for my own personal reasons. And to be fair, that is their advice on any illness on the planet at all. It's not specifically that alcohol will make you more susceptible to COVID. It's just alcohol's not great for your immune system.
World Health Organization are basically a bunch of fucking squares. They don't want anyone to party and have a good time. But we like a drink in this house, and it's not a problem if you have no responsibilities. So...
No, what I meant with that though is because it was a clickbaity headline, and I think it was by someone like the Daily Mirror or someone like that. But it's sort of the headline was World Health Organization says alcohol will make coronavirus symptoms worse, which that's quite attention getting. And then so I read the article, and then I actually looked at the World Health Organization's website about it, and it's basically that's their advice about alcohol. The World Health Organization generally says alcohol, by the way, guys, not very good for you. Which I don't think anyone didn't know that. It isn't, it seems, got any specific links, because also there's a few things that have come up with COVID. Like, at one point, people were saying don't take ibuprofen with it, like, because it'll make COVID symptoms worse. That's been debunked. They've now said that that's essentially just bullshit. There's no correlation whatsoever. There's lots of things gone around, so because we just don't know enough about this virus. But World Health Organization is quite correct. Alcohol's not very good for you. It makes all of your organs not work as efficiently as they should, and it is an immune suppressant to a low level. That's why sort of people who are alcoholics have bad health in general. Like that's what we're looking at there. But it isn't specific to COVID. That is just the World Health Organization's advice to life.
Keep calm and carry on drinking. But Hennessy have actually had to issue a statement themselves saying, look, our product doesn't help with
we don't advise you to take it. Right.
That's not
bless
what
them.
we do. But
that's not what we do.
That's not what we do. That's not what we're here for. But we actually, someone on Facebook today said that they had been binge watching this vlog, which, I mean, we appreciate it.
I loved that. That made me so happy, but baffled.
Yeah, obviously now that we're a success and people have been watching us, we're not going to let it go to our heads or change our behaviour in any way. Excuse me.
We're on day 29, so that's roughly... I didn't know he was going to do that.
We're a pretty big deal now. Because people binge watch this. So we're basically...
Maybe I should start wearing a bra.
Basically internet celebrity. No. Don't start wearing a bra.
Oh, good. I don't really want to. Yeah, that's thrown me.
Yeah.
I didn't bring props.
I'm like the Bono of this now.
Yeah, you are. You could be the Bono.
It's backhanded when you say it.
Fucking Bono.
But I mean, we appreciate it. Like, I don't know why anyone would want to binge watch this, to be honest.
I was just trying to work out.
It is nice if people.
So that's 14 and a half hours if we're on 29, because we've gone a little bit over, but let's just round it to the half hours. That's insane.
It is nice.
I'm quite touched.
It is nice when people do watch this at all.
Yeah.
And if you are watching, like we do, like any
please comment and let us know, or subscribe. One thing that I have discovered since we switched over to it being like officially through YouTube is YouTube's viewing figures are kind of bullshit. They like people had viewed it and spoken to me about it, but it was still saying no views, and I'm like, well, but they know things. People have seen this, so ignore the view count. I think it's bullshit.
It was nice when we were uploading it to Facebook as well. It was nice because we could see the views on here, and that was lovely. But
on here.
Was on Facebook.
They don't know which one you're talking about.
No, I know, but it was more trouble than it was worth to re-upload it in separate places.
Yeah, I was having to do both.
Share the link.
The recording has got later and later in the day as well. So by the time I was uploading, it was silly o'clock, which is now vital watching a cat sleep time. So because I've got to do that in a different room, which
I bet some of you never get to stay up and watch a cat sleep. Poor bastards. Anyway, we need to wrap this up.
Yeah, we do.
Again. Once again, time has got away from us. I was worried we wouldn't have enough to say today, but once again...
Well, we've blathered on quite happily, haven't we?
I'm going to loom a bit more at people, because I think it is nicer.
Show them the colour. Show them the colour you've gone.
That's
more towards teal this time, but it's still blue.
I think it's just blue.
Anyway, while we debate what colour Chris's face is. Bye, guys!
Bye!
Toodles!